Year 11, we're looking at the cultural frame. So the last frame that we looked at was the subjective frame. So we're still in the introduction and we're going through the four frames. So let's look at the quote. The quote is, "The position of the artist is humble. He is essentially a channel." When we consider art and art making from the viewpoint of the cultural frame, we become aware that everything and everybody exists in a network of relationships. An artwork does not appear out of a vacuum. Artworks will reflect some part of the wider world around them, the culture in which they were created. Culture can be thought of as ideas, values that are shared by groups of people. These ideas and values shape how art is created and understood. The cultural frame is used quite frequently when we look and view critical and historical studies. It's really really important when we are critically analysing past fine art examples that the cultural frame is used. We know essentially that anything that is fine art has come from a time where the culture is very different to our present contemporary day. And we know that with the materials that they use, when it was made, what they're actually creating or projecting in their artworks, their composition, the narrative within their artworks is all in regards to the cultural frame, the time that it was made. So let's think about culture. The philosopher George Hegel wrote, "Truth and human worth exists through the state." In his view, people build knowledge through the social power structures around them rather than directly experiencing the world through their senses. This is really important for yourself as a student, an art student, is that the best example of this is you like something because you're too afraid of actually not liking it for the fear of being subjected to peer judgment. That's okay. This is a normal thing to do when you're a teenager. You will like things because you don't want people to know or put yourself in a vulnerable position that is different to your peers. We're going to try and help you feel confident enough that you can break free from this, and some of you are already starting to do that, which is great. So Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels argued that the most powerful people dominate our society's beliefs and values, and that really resonates today. That the media dominates our beliefs and our values. The way that we see the world, or the way that we perceive the world, is dominated by, at this present time, by the government. We're in lockdown, you're in lockdown, I'm in lockdown. Everyone's in lockdown, and we're being told by the most powerful people the information. Whether we believe that as a belief or a value really depends on what we're watching, what we're reading, and what we're consuming. So that's really, really, really important for today's world, that the most powerful people dominate our society's beliefs and values. Take a good look at America and what's happening in America with their current Trump president. He's quite dominant, and he's changing the way that society's beliefs and values within his country. That's scary because there's so many things that is inherently wrong with the most powerful making decisions for the lay people. Whether we're being told the truth or not, that's something for another discourse and another debate. Ruth Benedict, a cultural anthropologist, argued that the way we understand ourselves as individuals is shaped by community values and ideas. She wrote, "The personality of culture defines its individuals as successes, misfits, or outcasts." Again, this can really be applied to real life. Some of you have actually hated on someone for no other reason than someone else told you to do that. You'd hate to admit it, and I hate to admit it, that as a teenager I did do that, but it come from fear. So whether I was successful, whether I was a misfit or an outcast, was really not up to me in the school environment. It's not up to you either, whether you're a success, a misfit, or an outcast. It's how other people perceive you to be. Yeah. So the community values and their ideas. So that's important. It doesn't have to necessarily be like that. Well, you might view yourself as really successful, but everyone around you views you as not. So there are some really interesting paradigms in that statement. But you know yourself, you can apply that. You have actually hated on someone for no reason, that person has not even spoken to you, you haven't even sat next to the person, you don't even really know that person, but you dislike them because majority dislike them for an argument that took place between two people that you don't even actually know. And you have created this belief of this individual that they are a misfit, they're an outcast due to the whole peer association. This happens, you know, this happens, okay? You need to be aware that this happens in the art academy or the art industry as well. So, as an artist, you can explore the different cultural values surrounding you. Consider how the beliefs and experiences of society in which you live are reflected in your own works of art. Ask yourself how you are influenced by other people's ideas about gender, class, race, nationality, and religion. No man or woman is on an island. Quite rural. Vincennia High School is quite rural, and it is considered a small coastal town, and there's not a lot of metropolitan ideas that are coming down into your bubble. They do come down, but not in the same, you don't have the same resources or the same exposure to students in metropolitan areas that have different values, different beliefs about class, about race, about nationality, about religion. Is there more than one religion in Vincennia High School? Do you even know the answer to that? Is there more than one race in Vincennia High School? What about nationality? What is nationality to students at Vincennia High School? What is gender? What is class in Vincennia High School? So let's examine the digital image at the right. It was made in 2006 and it's actually made by a student. So we're looking at a student's work here. It's quite religious when you look at it without reading anything. It's untitled, it's quite religious. It has an image of an infant with a mother. Okay, that's a really strong symbolism of what? What is that? What symbolism? Why? How do I know this? I don't go to church. I don't practice and go to church every Sunday. But I do know that is that Mary, Mother of God. I do know that because it has been told or taught that visual language from a very young age. That I've seen that, so have you. You know that image to be quite religious, whether it's Catholic, Christian. You know this visual language because it's been embedded into your culture, whether it's in media, whether it's paper form, magazines. Maybe perhaps you have this image in your family home. So the student, he wanted to express something about his own culture, heritage, and community. The student used traditional religious imagery to build up a rich, multi-layered vision of his local Greek Orthodox priest. That is his priest right there. I would not have known that it was a priest unless I have read that. But then if I sat down and I looked at it carefully and investigated further, I would actually get to that assumption through the visual language. The priest is holding, and we do see this in churches, they hold that chalice, that swinging chalice that has incense that blesses the church, the halls, the seating, the area, that community walks down. What's really interesting is the color choice. If they had used green or a luminant or fluoro, it wouldn't have the same visual language. The tones and the applications of the shades really does play with that traditional religious imagery. Let's take another look at another student's artwork that uses the cultural frame. So this one here that we're looking at here is called The Great Southern Land. It was created by a Chinese Sydney-based artist, John Wei, By looking at the way the mountains, the plants, and the rivers are painted, you can see that this playful graphic style is informed by traditional Chinese art. What's really interesting about this artwork is the first thing that draws my eye, and it's because of my own cultural understanding. Is the first thing I go to is the Aboriginal man with a spear. The second thing is the totems. I can see the kangaroos, I can see the emus, I can see the birds. That's the first thing, and I really struggled to see where the Chinese art was on my first initial look at it. But when we look deeper into the actual image of it, we start to see the imagery or the visual language that indicates the traditional Chinese art. It's the way that the river is displayed here from an aerial view, as is the land. You'll see, even in contemporary Chinese art, you'll see a lot of clouds. Okay, so that is an element of traditional Chinese art. The way that the tree here is painted, the foliage, that there, and how they've depicted the foliage is elements of Chinese art. Even as you have a look closer, and you'll have to have a look at the image in your textbook, really close to it, you'll see that there has these stamps. They have these rectangle ones here, these round ones here. The rectangle ones are here. What looks to me to be, it reminds me of Uluru, but Uluru there's only one. And here the student has created land masses of more than one. Okay, where else is another traditional Chinese art element? It's in the water. So you can see the pattern, the line work there. That's informed by traditional Chinese art. So that's a really good example of how your own cultural frame can draw you to certain aspects of an artwork that attracts you. It attracts you because you know that imagery, you know that information. But it's really important to take the time to investigate artwork further, past the initial thought. Okay, so let's have a look at another one. This one here is a poster, and it's called Hey Hetero. It was a public art project. It was created for the Mardi Gras in 2001, and it appeared in a series of illuminated. When they say illuminated, it is lit up. That means it's lit up with lights behind it. When you're in the city, the bus stops have on each side of them and inside of them have places for advertisement, and this is where this poster would have been. The poster would have been bigger than an A3. It would have been quite large. It also was on billboards, magazines, street posters. They're really fun. Street posters are an element of graffiti. Street posters is how hip hop, underground punk, some rock in the early 60s, 70s, 80s, that's how they would advertise. So street posters are smaller. They're usually around A3, a little bit bigger depending on where they actually put them. And so you'll be walking down an alley and you would see a whole wall just covered in posters. You know, that's a street poster. It's not a poster that you get out of a magazine and you have a one-off print and you place that on your wall. A street poster is a mass, and they actually have a few different areas that they'll hit, and they'll have a few different companies. They may even have a few different crews that will go out and hit different and target different areas, different walls, different corridors. They're really exciting. Street posters, postcards, they can be handed out, they can be left in places as well. So they really tried to infiltrate this poster through the streets. Why did they do that? So viewers of the artwork are invited to consider that heterosexuality is a culture with customs, costumes, rituals, and exclusive rights. Think about what the artist was trying to say about society's attitudes towards sexuality. It says, hey, hetero. When they say family, they mean you. We probably could still say that this still applies in today's society, especially the culture within Centennial High School. You know, it's common for most people to have a mum and a dad and one child. That is what the poster of a family should look like. That's what society tells you that's normal. But behind the scenes, it's very rare that things are normal. It's not unusual for many kids to not have a dad at home or not have a mum. So, is this poster a true representation of family? Probably not, but it's what society wants you to believe. They will say, and in visual language and the media that we consume, is a family means a mum and dad and a child. Um, People come from broken homes. People have two dads, maybe they have two mums. They might be very different to what your family is. I think what's really relevant in Vincentia High School and your community that you're part of is that perhaps the family is extended. Your family is not just mum and dad, it's aunties and uncles, it's grandmothers and grandfathers. In some households, there are no parents. Maybe it is the grandparents that are actually doing the parenting, and this is not unusual. And if this is something new to you, I suggest that you go and research it, because you'll be surprised at the amount of percentage of students, and you might even know someone that is staying with their parents. It's not unusual, especially in today. It's not unusual for kids to actually be placed in a carer, in foster care. There may be some people that haven't even shared and you don't even know this. This is a poster perfect picture of what a family is presumed to be like. It's not necessarily true. So these are really good examples of culture. Culture can be gender, can be identity, can be sexuality. Culture can be a culture that is your grandparents or your parents' culture, which is depicted in the Great Southern Land. It's a Chinese-born Sydney-based artist. So he's Chinese, but he was born in Sydney. He's Australian, just like anyone else that was born in Australia. But his heritage, his culture is Chinese. In the earlier example, his culture is his religion. And I really like this part with religion. What is religion? What is religion to anyone? What religion do you practice? Is it a religion that is mass consumed? Is it Christianity? Are you Catholic? Perhaps you're not religious, you're an atheist. That's okay. These things are okay, and these things should be explored within visual arts in the safety of visual arts. So student task 5.2, what cultural groups do you identify with? Are you a misfit? Are you a success? Are you an outcast? I'm proud to say that I'm a misfit. I don't want to be a success. I don't want to be part of mainstream. It annoys me to be part of that. And that's my culture. So what cultural groups do you identify? Is it religion? Is there heritage from your mum, from your dad, from your grandparents that is worth exploring? Are you male? Are you female? What age group? What cultural age group? What subculture are you part of? Those subcultures include your skating, your surfing, all those sorts of subcultures. Investigate it. Maybe anime is your thing. Maybe Comic-Con is your thing. There are many subcultures. Explore them. Let me know. You cannot answer this question with a one-worded answer. That is wrong. It's unacceptable. It's a superficial answer, and you are no longer allowed to do that in Year 11. Do your artworks reflect values and beliefs shared with others? Maybe you think that this is you and only you have this belief and you don't want to share it with others. Maybe you've researched it and you know that others share the same value as you, okay, or share the same beliefs as you. Do you want your artworks to comment on parts of society? Do you want to expose hidden truths? That is a question that always comes back to me in my own visual arts practice is, do you want your artwork to comment on parts of society? Yes. I always like to highlight the things in society people choose to ignore, because I feel, as the earlier quote states, I am a channel or I am a vessel for those words or those things that go unspoken? Do you have views on social issues, and can they be incorporated into your work? So, do you have views on social issues? Can they be incorporated in your work? What are the social issues of today? Our social issues of today is disease. Our social issues of today is quarantine. Our social issues of today is staying at home and abiding by the laws that are imposed on us. These are social issues. We look at them and we go, yeah, I can't wait to get back in the classroom. Everything's going to go back to normal, but I'm afraid things aren't going to go back to normal. What are the social issues that are currently happening right now for you, and how can you incorporate that into your work? Well, how do you feel about it? Go back to how you feel, that subjective frame. What culturally is happening right now? What is something that you're part of that we've never experienced? This is new to our culture. It's new to Australia. It's new to your parents. It's new to me. It's new to you. Explore these questions. Write them down. Get ready to share your evidence with the class. May that be in a PowerPoint or just a simple photo of your visual arts diary. Thanks, guys.